Welcome. I'm Bernice Ross, the CEO and President of Brokerage of realestatecoach.com.
And I'm Greg McDaniel, the co-host of Real Estate Uncensored. And together, Bernice and I are Real Estate Coach Uncensored. Guys, today we're going to be talking about big data. We're going to be talking about Big Brother. We're going to be talking about cybersecurity, video, audio recordings, and everything else in between. One of the things that I think a lot of us, when we're in the real estate industry, we may take for granted, we may not, is the fact that once we enter a property these days, you may or may not be recorded, audio or visual. And I know as a buyer's agent for nearly 20 years now, before I would go into a property, I would always talk to my buyers and say, hey guys, and I do this in the car or down the street or at the office, away from the property, right? I say, hey guys, when you walk into the property, just make the assumption you're going to be recorded at some point. A Ring doorbell or other type of video recording, audio doorbells, nanny cams, security cameras within the property you don't see. Just be aware of it. So let's keep our oohs and our ahs and our either negative comments or super positive comments. Let's keep that to a minimum. Let's have a civil discussion. And then once we're out of range of that property, then we'll be able to have another more in-depth conversation, because we don't want to show our hand and we don't want to offend the sellers. And they would be like, oh, okay, that's a good point. That's a good point. And so I on that side, it's very interesting. And I had a situation the other day. I was talking to an individual. They just put their property on the market. They had a lot of wine in their home. And so they have security cameras on the front and the back of the property just because that's the way they live. And this person had one on the interior as well. And so the listing agent, I was over just kind of chatting because this person's a friend of mine. And the listing agent said, well, the security camera that you have on your shelf over there, does it work? And she was like, yeah, it works. She said, well, if you're going to keep it there, then I have to notify that there is a recording device in the property, which I found very interesting, because when I read the California Association of Realtors listing agreement, page 4, item 10, it talks specifically about audio and video recording, and actually states to the fact that buyers and inspectors, appraisers, and other people may video and may audio record the interior of their home. But if the seller is going to do this, and again, this is in California, all go check your own contracts in all your own country or your own states. But check out, because it states on the very last line saying that if the seller is going to have an audio or audio visual recorder, they have to disclose the fact that it is in the property. Now, I find that very interesting, because I don't understand why the buyers, inspectors, and appraisers can all video the property, but we have to tell them that they're being recorded. Now, you had a great point on that, because you brought up the point, Bernice, that, well, that's interesting, because what if, okay, so we disclose that there's audio or video recording in the property, right? The seller has it. There goes their, now they just compromise their security.
Well, and as I'm thinking about that though, Greg, the question is, you don't have to say where it's located. So that's it. But still, I think people need to be aware, as you said, because I've heard of a lot of sellers turning on, things during showings, and you're holding an open house,
mm-hmm.
It goes off, and they get you sleeping. Agents have had this happen. I mean, or and the people say, "Oh man, this house is so great." Well, gosh, it's like $50,000 less than we can afford. I mean, we can afford $50,000 more. The seller's going, ching, 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 ching.
It's like, oh, you can afford 50 grand more? Great. You're going to give me an offer for X amount of dollars? Great. We're going to counter you 50K more.
Yes, exactly. So, those are the hard realities. And, these are actual stories I've heard from people. So, you don't think about it. You got an open house and you're kind of just sitting there and you're waiting for people to come. Chances are the seller's recording you.
That's a very interesting thing, because I was joking around with my girlfriend the other day, and she's like, so, because we're watching a movie and this real estate agent was just pacing back and forth, doing push-ups, staring out the window, we're doing all these things. She's like, is that really what you guys do when there's no one there? And I'm like, oh yeah. Oh yeah. But it is funny to think that, in today's day and age. Well,
think about it. If you have a broker open house, even more interesting, because what happens is, of course, is that they, you've got people coming in and, they're critical of the property. They're telling you, this, that, and the other, or you're seeing, they're making random remarks. One of the favorite ones I ever heard on a broker's open house, $2 million property. They had it was brand, they'd reworked this entire property, and we walked in, and the assistant manager in my office looks around and says, brand new tear down. Can you imagine if that had been on video?
Oh, well, it would have been a nice run as the assistant manager. But it comes back to, something I think overarching in regards to our society in today's day and age. This thing called a smartphone is constantly listening to us, right? And it's constantly recording some level of something. I'm still trying to wrap my head around this. Is why is it so different to be in a home versus like a restaurant or on the street and be recorded? Where is that defining difference? Why do people feel violated when they're in a home versus walking down the street, Starbucks, B of A, whatever else? Maybe you can help me understand that a little.
Well, I don't think, I think it is incumbent on the buyer's agent to make the disclosure, not the seller. But, if you're in California, that's what, and you use the CAR, listing agreement, then you're stuck with that provision. So, and a lot of companies do, but I'm not aware that, what's available in other states. So look at what's in your listing forms. And if this is required, all you have to do is post something, I don't know if you have a sign on the fireplace or wherever, when they first walk in, that's visible. Recording devices are operable in this property, and just leave it at that. And they, and that, and the good news is if somebody is casing the place out, and the video cameras are not obvious, then they become less of a target. So that may actually be a benefit.
I actually think that would be a huge benefit, because a number of years ago, we had a property that we had listed. We had another agent do the open house. We said, hey man, you've got, we told our seller, like, you've got to get your prescription drugs out, because she had a brain tumor and she had these like horse pills that she had to take, like to take away the pain. And they would knock her out. They're like seriously strong stuff. And you know what? The agent that was holding the open house, got overwhelmed, didn't see everyone come in. We knew that there was a husband or a male, female that were going to open houses and stealing medications. Well, guess who got hit? Our listing got hit. The agent that was from our company felt horrible about it. But if we had put that disclosure at the front door and said, recording devices are operable in this property, I bet you anything that would be a huge deterrent. I mean, I do a show on my Facebook page Monday through Thursday called Beers and Calls, where I drink a beer and I do calls with my buddy Stefan. And in California, I have to disclose to every single person I talk to, who I am, where I'm from. Hey, I'm doing calls from my office, and I record the calls here live for training. And I go right into the calls. Guess what? Everybody's super nice. You hardly get a rude person anymore because they know they're being recorded. It's a psychological trick, right?
That is what a powerful way to change the script. And Greg, that's another brilliant idea that you've had, that, as soon as you disclose that, people are on their good behavior. This call is being recorded. Not always, because some of them are going to go off no matter what. Well, we've been talking about Big Brother. Let's shift gears here a little bit. And I'm going to try doing a screen share. We won't know if this is going to work or not, but we'll see.
Okay. Sounds like a good deal.
Okay. Are you seeing my screen here?
We are seeing mountains, yes.
Okay, so anyway, I've been using a browser called brave.com. It's Brave, brave.com. Now, this is owned by the people of Mozilla. They're the people that own Firefox, so they've been in the browser industry for years. But what they do is they block ads, and you can see I installed this 27 months ago, so a little over 2 years ago at Thanksgiving. Wow. And it has blocked 950,000 ads and trackers.
Wow.
It's also upgraded me from HTTP websites, which are not secure, when there is an HTTPS available, which is secure. And you can see it's saved me 13.3 hours. But to give you an idea, I had one of the news sites, I think it was Yahoo that I visited. It blocked like 60 or 70 ads just on that one page. You know how long it takes to download that on your phone? And it's just horrible. So anyway, I want to stop our screen share here, but and go back to our video. But that's something. So brave.com is one of the ways that you can block what's going on. And then I want to go ahead and Brave doesn't work with everything. So if I want to clip an article over on Evernote, I have to go over to Google to get that to Chrome. So it's like I use Brave when I can. I'll go to Chrome. But I read an article, there's a new site called medium.com, and this is a really interesting site for kind of young and upcoming writers, if you are. There's some older ones in there too. But I'm seeing a lot of really great content coming through there. So somebody did an article on segmenting your browsers and what they talked about doing. So for me, okay, I use Brave all the time. If I can be on Brave, I want to be in Brave. And then it blocks about 98% of the Facebook ads as well. So,
oh, really?
Yeah, no, this thing even gets to Facebook. And there are some that creep through, but I'm not, I hear everybody getting the Facebook following my profile and stuff. It just doesn't happen to me. I don't even see that stuff because Brave is blocking it, which, I love this browser. I get over something else, everything shows up. I will use Google I'll use Chrome for things where if I can't use Brave, Google's usually my best choice because it still has ad blocking on it.
Mm-hmm.
Then if I can't get past the ad blocks on an article I want to see, I'll go to Safari, which just leave that. But when it comes to your digital security, what this article suggests, and I thought this was really brilliant. Some people have said, well, you've got to have a separate computer that you do nothing but your financials on, and then have your main computer, do all your other stuff, but put your financials and all that private stuff on one place, and you only use it, and you never use it for anything else. Well, if you don't have a second computer, around that you want to do that with, what you can do is you can say that you want to, maybe you decide that you want Safari or, a different browser, maybe it's Firefox, and you only use that for your financials and for those things that need to be hyper secure, and you do nothing there with that browser. And then for me, I use Brave as my main. I go to Google because they still have ad blocking when I can. Then when I sign up for something that, I don't use my main email when I sign up for, say like for a department store credit card and you get my points, that goes to Gmail because, that just sits over there. They've got something called Postini, which lets you group stuff. That's very cool, but I don't need to see it. And I'm getting hundreds of emails a day. I don't need to see it in my main feed.
No.
And then when I sign up for something where I know they're going to scam me, and it's something I still want to take a look at or sign up for, I go over to live.com, which is MSN, Bing and stuff. But essentially, I've got a different name, different address over there. It's still tied to my ISP, so they can track me. You can't get away from that. But still, I don't, anything that they're sending to that address I never see, I don't go there. That's it. It's just gone. So
that is really good stuff. I mean, I'm looking through my email really quickly because I have a system, because we all get spammed via email as well, right? And there's a program I use called Unroll. And Unroll is, you can put all those spam, all those like people that just bombard you into Unroll, and then they'll just collect them in that one system. You won't see them in your email feed anymore. But if you want to open up Unroll and see what's in there, you totally can. I found this to be invaluable to clean up my inbox. Clean up. I have over 5,000 emails I haven't opened. So,
and for people who are not familiar with Unroll, that's on Gmail. So if you have a Gmail address, personally, I've always had, since 1997, I've always had my own URL, Bernice at realestatecoach.com. So, and sometimes, people get spoofed, and then we have to call the people that host our site to clear that up. So you have problems. The thing that I found that works really well, and I think they're available for PC, they're definitely available for Mac, is Spam Sieve. And that's spelled S-I-E-V-E, Spam Sieve. And I really love this tool because it lets you mark each message as spam or whatever, and yet it's still, it collects them, so you can go take a look at them if you want to, because stuff does get picked up periodically. But it's just such a great block. So it probably picks up maybe 95 to 98% of the spam that I get sent, because I get reams of it because my URL's been out there for over 20 years. So that's a problem. So this Unroll feature, if you're using Gmail, that's part of Postini. That is just a fantastic tool. So they're
Very,
using that.
very nice.
Greg, one of the things that you were talking about, we think that, one of the articles I saw is when you go in incognito, you're not really, because they can really track you. And you're talking about the big data applications on this, so what's going on over there with that? Because I was surprised when you talked about what that was.
So big data, this shouldn't be something that you guys have never heard of before. This is just essentially in data aggregation. And there are companies out there, one of which I'm starting to work with, that they have access to all that data that Facebook used to be able to provide until the Cambridge Analytica whole thing came up. And, the fallout of, like, you could pick gender, race, income, ethnicity, language. You could pick all these super micro market details and go dive deep and hit people, not hit people, but like target them for ads, right? Big data is being collected on every level, every keystroke, every command, every message, everything like this right now is being logged somewhere, in an archive, and they analyze it. They look at it for, targeted words, threatening phrases. They're looking for, what people are looking for, what you're doing on social media. That's why when you post things like Pinterest is one of the biggest things about this. Pinterest is their whole platform is for the future, because you're pinning your interests, correct? Well, every board you create, every image you select, they're harvesting what you're liking, and their algorithm is just working like this. And then they're selling that data. They say, Bernice loves to buy, blue jackets or purple jackets. Great. We're going to sell her data to a jacket company that makes these types of jackets. Then they're going to send her ads, right? That's big data. I know your religious affiliation, your political affiliations, your sexual orientations, how many kids you have, what kind of dog food you feed your dog. Do you like cats? What type of music you like, and the list goes on and on. And so when people say, oh my God, how did you get my phone number when I'm out doing prospecting calls? People their heads are still in the ground like an ostrich. They don't get to the fact that everything that you're doing is being harvested. There is a book, and I'm going to warn you guys, one of their sources is a little controversial, so just work with me on this one. Go get the book and you'll understand what I'm saying. There's a book called, Bernice knows what's coming.
Yes.
There is a book called Everybody Lies, and it's a phenomenal book. It's so interesting. It talks all about big data, really how this thing works. And so what they did is that they figured out that human beings will tell little white lies or big lies to each other, either to make themselves feel better or not to hurt someone else's feelings, or to protect something that they're secretly have an affinity for but don't want the world to know. So what they did is they had an idea, and they went over to, and here comes the offensive part, they went over to Pornhub, and they said, Pornhub, hey man, like, we're doing some research. Would you let us dive into your search algorithms? And they're like, yeah, that's cool. So they get in there, and I'll let you read the book to see what they really find. But it's fascinating to the fact that people will never lie to a keyboard. When's the last time you...
wait a minute. They won't lie to a keyboard. What do you mean by that?
Well, let's say someone has an interesting preference in their personal life. Right.
Got it. So what you're saying, when they search that, they're going to tell the truth about that preference, because they're going to type it in to search it. So people speak truth to the search, essentially, is what you're saying.
Exactly, because it's anonymity. It's just fingers on a keyboard, right? It's not like, oh, they're never going to find out I like blah, blah, blah. But in reality, that's the whole point. Like, the data will set you free. Like this, they will expose everything you've ever typed. So get the book, guys, read about it. And then once you understand big data, it's not that scary, but it is not going away. It is going to only get bigger. When AI really comes out, artificial intelligence really comes out, you're going to wish we just stayed with social media. Oh my gosh, it's going to be next level. I mean, I think, Brittany, was it last year or the year before? I think in the Middle East, they gave the first artificial intelligent being they gave it a citizenship. Did you hear about this?
Yes.
Annie or something like that.
I do remember that, yes.
That's just coming down the pipe. So that's big data, guys. Go get the book. Everybody Lies. Take a look at it and just understand where everything's going in technology.
Yeah, that it's that they're tracking you, and they are pulling your data and everything. And as Greg said, you can buy all this data. It's available.
It's available. My brother actually has a company called Likely.ai, and he does predictive analytics for home sellers. And it's he's been working on it for like 10 years, and it's phenomenally interesting to watch how accurate it is becoming through high-level math on being able to literally see the future from the past. And that's just in in real estate. Imagine what else they're doing, algorithms for. It's everywhere.
Oh yeah, every part of your life. I kind of want to wrap up today by talking about some of the problems with Facebook. And, Greg, I think you probably, would lead in on this, but I've got some alternatives here. There's a big problem with WhatsApp, but what are the general problems with Facebook from your perspective?
They listen to you at all times. You guys, I'm pretty sure none of us read the disclosures for your Facebook app on your phone. One of the things you have to agree to get that app on your phone is that Facebook says, hey man, we'll give you Facebook on your phone, but we are going to say that we can gain access to your camera and your audio at any time that we want to. So like the other day, my girlfriend and I were planning a trip to Asia. Now guys, I have never, ever looked into Asian airlines ever before in my life. And we were talking about this airline, that airline, and so on and so forth. I get on her computer, not even my computer, okay? I get on her computer and I start on Facebook and I log in and I start typing stuff, vroom, Philippine Airlines, China Airlines, East China Airlines, South China Airlines. And I'm just like, what in the heck? So, I mean, I could go down a rabbit hole, which I'm not going to go down about that, but they're constantly listening to you and they're constantly watching you. And so these alternatives are fascinating. So Bernice, walk us down that and kind of what you found.
I just read an article on medium.com and it talked about what the problems were with WhatsApp. And in case you don't know, I thought WhatsApp was owned by some Chinese group. I know a lot of people in China were using it. Well, it turns out Facebook owns it. Okay.
Didn't they buy it for like, didn't they buy it for like 16 billion? I think something like that.
I mean, it's just like, I just put WhatsApp on my phone when I went on my cruise a few weeks ago. So I'm still not using it. It was good for pictures on the trip.
Right.
But what's happening with WhatsApp now, they're doing all the tracking and everything else that, they're data mining, everything that we've been talking about. And if you want to have your communications private, there's a site called Signal, and it's an app. And how it works, it provides end-to-end encryption of your messages. So if you have something that you want to keep private, and I'm going to say, for me, the first place I want to use this is in a transaction, because I don't want anybody, one of the options is use blockchain, but I do not want anybody getting in the middle of my transaction. And this is how to, it's got end-to-end encryption, so you and your sellers and and your buyers can put that on your phone. If you want to leave something in someone's mail, and they're, you want to text them or through WhatsApp, you can leave it for 5 minutes if you want, and it goes poof, and they can't stop it. So communications are, and then also the screen security, you can't do a screen grab with it.
Really?
Yeah. So it's all encrypted. Then they also have a 2-word security system, and I don't understand all this works. It's way above my pay grade. I'm just quoting what was in the article.
Right.
But, so what happens is you'll have a 2-word security form, that you and the person receiving it will have. And if those 2 words don't come back exactly in the same order, in the same format, the encryption fails. So you need to switch internet systems because you're probably being monitored.
Interesting. So this is like straight up NSA for the common folk.
Yes, yes. So the encryption piece is becoming increasing, you're hearing so much about this, is that, Apple going to turn over your phone if, if NSA wants it. I mean, there's so much going on in this area. And I don't have to tell you, people are constantly trying to hack into, especially for us as realtors and for our clients, the digital security piece right now is huge. How many times have you heard someone has done a transfer and they got wiring instructions they thought was from the escrow or from the title company, and it wasn't?
Yep.
So, and we'll have to do another show on blockchain. That's one of the ways to get around it. But
blockchain is fascinating. I had a discussion about a year or so ago with someone who's getting really deep into it, and they were explaining it to me. Now, the first time I really understood it, and I was just like, what? But once you get around it, it's fascinating how you can really work. And I honestly believe blockchain is going to be the way escrows are going to be done in the future.
That's already happening. One of my friends is the COO of Proppy, which is one of the companies. But we're up against the end of of our time today, Greg. So anyway, just to kind of, what final takeaway from your perspective from today?
Be aware of everything that you type in, guys. You're not anonymity does not exist on the web. It just doesn't. I'm sorry to say that. So be aware of it. I'm not trying to scare you. Just be aware of what's going on around you. Still live your life. Still enjoy everything, but just be heads up instead of heads down. Yeah, that's kind of my takeaway. Just be heads up.
Well, my two takeaways are, I didn't know about in California, at least, that you have to, if you use the CR forms, that you have to post this, just make sure that's posted if you're in California or if your state requires that. And then my biggest takeaway is get on Brave. It has saved me so much browsing time and speeded up my browsing time. So it's just, I'm not waiting for all those dumb ads to download. So brave.com. I wish it was available on my, I have it on my iPad, but it doesn't work on the iPhone, unfortunately.
Shoot.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm Bernice Ross, the CEO and president of brokerage from realestatecoach.com. Thank you for being with us today. And
my name is Greg McDaniel. I'm the co-host of Real Estate Uncensored. So go check us out, guys. Download our podcast and start learning a little bit more about real estate.